Welcome back to The Explainer. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about the big, flashy parts of the internet. But today, we're going deep on one of the unsung heroes of your local network. It's a little protocol called ARP, the Address Resolution Protocol. And without this crucial translator, your devices wouldn't even be able to talk to each other. So let's dive in and see how it all works.
So, let's set the scene. You type google.com into your browser. Your computer, through DNS, figures out Google's IP address, its global location on the internet. But hang on a second. Before it can send a single packet out to the wider world, it has to talk to your router first. The problem is, how does it find your router in the tiny world of your own home network? Which one, out of all the devices in your house, is the right one to talk to? And that right there, that is the core challenge that ARP was created to solve. You see, every single device on your network, your laptop, your phone, your smart TV, your router, is constantly juggling two completely different identities. It's got a logical address for the big, wide world and a physical address for its immediate neighbors. Okay, let's use an analogy to make this super clear. Think of an IP address, that's a layer 3 thing, as your home's mailing address. It gets the mail to the right building in the right city. It's logical, which means if you move, your address changes. But the MAC address, that's at layer 2. And it's like the permanent, unique nameplate bolted to your specific apartment door. It tells the mail carrier exactly which door inside the building to deliver the package to.
So here's the million-dollar question, right? The network has the letter with the mailing address on it, the IP, but to actually deliver it, it needs to know which specific door, which MAC address to knock on. How in the world does it connect the two? We need a translator.
Well, enter our hero, the Address Resolution Protocol, or ARP. This is the little guy with the big job. Think of it as the friendly concierge of your local network, constantly running around asking, "Okay, I've got this packet for this IP address. Can someone please point me to the right physical device?"
So at its heart, ARP is really just a simple question and answer system. Its whole purpose in life is to discover a physical MAC address when all it knows is a logical IP address. You know, without ARP, all the devices on your Wi-Fi would be like strangers in a crowded room. They could see each other, but they'd have no way to actually start a conversation.
All right, so how does this magic translation actually happen? Well, it's not magic at all. It's a really elegant 4-step dance of request and response. Let's walk through it.
It all starts with a shout. Seriously, imagine your computer is in a room full of other devices. It stands up and broadcasts a message to everyone. It's basically yelling, "Hey everybody, listen up. I'm looking for the device with IP address 192.168.1.5. If that's you, please tell me your physical address." This is the ARP request. So let's trace the steps. First, the device sends that ARP request as a broadcast, which means it goes to every single device on the local network. Second, every device hears it, but most of them just ignore it, thinking, "Nope, not me." But one device perks up, the one with the matching IP. Third, that target device doesn't shout back. It's much more polite. It sends a direct one-to-one message, a unicast, straight back to the original sender. And finally, and this is key for efficiency, the first device jots down the answer in its memory, so it doesn't have to ask again right away. And this right here is that private reply. The target device is essentially raising its hand and whispering back, "You who over here, that's me you're looking for. My nameplate, my MAC address is 00-AA11BB22CC. Now you can talk to me directly." See how that works? One public shout, one private answer. It's incredibly efficient. Now let's talk about that fourth step, caching. You can imagine that if your computer had to shout across the network for every single packet it wanted to send, things would get really noisy and really slow really fast. So to avoid all that racket, devices are smart. They keep a little cheat sheet, a short-term memory of who's who. And this is what that cheat sheet, or ARP cache, actually looks like. It's dead simple. It's just a table that maps the IP addresses it's seen to the physical MAC addresses it's discovered. And see that dynamic type? That just means the device learned this information automatically through that shouting process. These entries don't last forever, though. They expire after a few minutes to make sure the information doesn't get stale. Okay, so it all sounds pretty straightforward and elegant, right? A simple solution to a common problem. But, as with so many foundational technologies, there's a twist in the tale. ARP's greatest strength is also its biggest weakness.
And here's the critical thing to understand about ARP. It was designed in a much more innocent time, for smaller, trusted networks. Its entire design philosophy is built on one thing: blind trust. ARP just assumes that any device that sends a reply is telling the truth. It never verifies. And, well, you can probably see where this is going.
This gaping hole of trust opens the door for a nasty attack called ARP spoofing or ARP poisoning. Imagine a bad actor joins your local Wi-Fi network. They can start sending out fake, unsolicited ARP replies. They can lie, telling your computer, hey, I'm the router. My MAC address is actually this one over here. And because ARP is so trusting, your computer just says, oh, okay, and updates its cheat sheet. And just like that, all of your internet traffic is now secretly being routed through the attacker's machine, where they can read, modify, or block anything they want. It's a classic man-in-the-middle attack.
Now that sounds pretty scary, I know, but it's not all doom and gloom. The core idea behind ARP is so fundamentally useful that engineers have actually adapted it for some really clever and totally legitimate purposes.
For starters, there's something called gratuitous ARP. This is like a device showing up to a party and politely announcing, hey everyone, I'm here and this is my IP address. It's a great way to prevent two devices from accidentally using the same IP. Then you have proxy ARP, where a router can cleverly answer an ARP request on behalf of a device on a different network, acting as a middleman. And finally, there's inverse ARP, which, you guessed it, does the exact opposite. It helps a device find an IP address when all it knows is a MAC address.
But after all this talk of attacks and variations, let's bring it back to the core idea. At the end of the day, it all comes down to the number 2. ARP's one and only job is to solve the two-address problem. It is the essential bridge between the logical, changeable world of Layer 3 IP addresses and the physical, permanent world of Layer 2 MAC addresses. That's it. That's its whole job.
And that leaves us with a final, bigger thought. ARP works because it was designed with an implicit assumption of trust. That simplicity is its strength, but it's also its greatest vulnerability. And it really makes you wonder what other foundational systems that we rely on every single day, digital or otherwise, are built on that exact same fragile foundation of trust, just waiting to be exploited. Something to think about. Thanks for watching.